place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. Knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to...
We the Detroit Lions. We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us.
Y'all give me a chance to showcase what I can do when they try to bury me, dog. If they can't bury me, we'll come from the dirt.
They grab first down. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. Jared Goff delivers against Detroit. Stand up. You waited for this. The Lions won again, bitch. You know the Lions won again.
I wanted
What up, go Lions? Episode 3, Trace in Spanish. How you guys doing? This is Motor City Ball Knowers, your home for authentic analysis, laughter, commiseration, takes on your favorite topic, the Detroit Lions. Got Hesser and Scotty. I'm producer Tim. We're lifelong, devoted fans to the Lions. We bring you our passion, unfiltered take on the team. Please stay tuned for our bi-weekly episodes. Good to be back with y'all, Hesser and Scotty. How we doing?
Boys.
It's April in the D.
April Fools. Hopefully you didn't get pranked today too hard.
Got the boys on a little opening day prank. Said I had 10 tickets. I got hooked up with the deal. I got 4 signups texting me individually like, yeah, dude, we're going over. That was
well done, Tim. Tim.
That's a good prank.
Well,
yeah.
Guys, the calendar slipped to April, but it's freezing cold still here in Michigan. I've got my starter jacket on. I don't know how many more days we can still be rocking this thing with the cold temperatures. So, but baseball is back. We've got the Tigers home opener, as you mentioned, Tim. We got 2 more days until that on Friday at home versus the Cardinals. So they got to stop this losing skid. They've lost 4 in a row, but it's a good time of year. March Madness, Final Four. Unfortunately, our Spartans didn't make it, but there's never a shortage of Lions topics to discuss, even though there's a lot of other stuff going on. You got your bad boys there, JD, Pistons. Playoff push is coming. We don't need to talk about the Red Wings. We don't need to talk about. They seem to be pretty depressing right now. But
yeah, no, we'll stay away from that. A lot of excitement. And flipping to the Lions, it's officially draft season. We have entered the month of April, which means we're a few weeks out from another super fun night, the draft. I think we're 20.
I look forward to it.
3 weeks out. 3 weeks out. 22 days
from. I think 3 weeks from tomorrow. Yeah,
3 weeks from tomorrow.
Thursday. Yeah.
Let's go. All right, I love it. Well,
Pittsburgh this year.
Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Yeah, Detroit, Green Bay, and Pittsburgh. I'm kind of appreciating the Midwest and some smaller market cities getting the draft. I think that's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah, I think, and I hope. I know they brought up how, and this is speaking on the draft in Detroit, it was such a hit here. Was that 2 years ago? Right? Yeah, it was Green Bay last year. I hope that just allows us to keep hosting more things. I know we have the Final Four next year, but I think like the Big Ten tournament. I don't know why we can't host an all-star game for NBA, NHL. We've got the brand new arena, all the new developments downtown. Although I know
a lot of parking.
Chris Illich hasn't followed through on the District Detroit.
The Q line, man.
We got the Q. We got some public public transit. So a new bridge. I just learned this today. There's a new bridge being built over to Canada.
Gordie Howe Bridge.
Yeah, that was unbeknownst.
It's going to be a pedestrian bridge too. You're going to be able to walk in Canada.
But you can walk and bike.
No way.
Yeah. I just learned that like 2 hours ago. So pretty good stuff.
Motor City Ball Knower, you can learn about real stuff in the news too.
Yeah, maybe we have a little Detroit, City of Detroit segment.
Yeah.
Every so often. Well, let's dive into it. We got some things to talk about, and I think we have got to start with big shout out to some of our favorite Lions beat reporters and podcasters. Colton Pouncey, Will Birchfield, Justin Rogers, and Jeff Ifrady were able to get Brad Holmes on an interview on their show, The Lions Collective, which is a great show. And I think we got some good sound bites from Holmes, and I think, at least for me, it clarified a lot of things that I think we thought was kind of the direction the team was heading. But Scotty, I want to pass it to you, man. Give me your Holmes takes, and I want the raw, unfiltered. What does Scott Anderson think about Brad Holmes? I think this is the episode. I think that we got to do it.
For sure. Nothing he said on the episode necessarily surprised me. I will say that much. I'll lead off with that. So, although the episode was filled with a lot of the words, and he said the same things kind of over and over again. He kind of talks in circles, but he keeps saying constraints. He says we operate under financial constraints, and that leads us to not be as active as maybe some fans would like us to be in free agency and through potential trades. And he brings up over and over again how the emphasis is about preserving the money, the draft capital, or the money, the dollars, the free agent dollars capital for his draft picks, is the guys that he drafts, develops, and then we extend them. So that's going to prevent the Lions from going out and getting the big names. And he made an analogy where is that if you have $20 million to spend, hypothetically, do you want us just to spend 19 million of that on one player and then we can't do anything else? That was something he brought up that I found a little interesting. And it seems that they are so concerned with, we need to preserve and have these guys on board for 2027, 2028 and beyond, where there is no urgency of like, hey, we're right on the doorstep, or we were right on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. There's no like, we need one more big push to get over, and we might have to sacrifice maybe a 2028 or a 2029, cap casualty, cap hit, where they're very much, we want to be sustainably good, and they never, which bothers me, because in this league, to win a Super Bowl, you need to have an outlier performance. You need to have a ceiling, raising the ceiling up to unforeseen heights in order to accomplish that goal. And I think that in this town, and there's other, we talk about April and the D, the other sports teams in this town, there's a lot of like, they just want to be good and just hope that they kind of break into some good variance in the playoffs and everything goes their way. But they don't necessarily push for like, hey, we're going to kind of push our chips in all in this year. This is it. We have urgency. And that's where I get bothered, because in sports, the ultimate goal is winning, is first place, not second, not being really, you don't want to be fourth place for 5 straight years. You want to finish first once, and then you'll figure out the aftermath after that. So that's where I stand. And I think there's a difference in how I would run a team and how I would try to push when you're close, rather than just stay the course, trust the process, and we're just going to try to be really good for the next decade. Especially in a salary cap league, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, passionate. I love it. And I think, I think you and I see this a little differently, for sure. Where I think I'm more in line with what Brad has done and wants to do. And I give you a division rival as a prime example of where going all in can backfire. And Scott, we talked about this earlier this week. The Green Bay Packers went all in last year, right? They made the big trade. They got Parsons. And I think at the time, we would have, especially after week 1 too, when they beat the crap out of us, I think we would have gladly like traded spots with the Packers. Now, today, would you trade places with the Packers? I would not. If you're taking the Lions or the Packers for the next year to 2 years, I'm taking the Lions. And that's because that all-in move that they made involving first-round draft picks and players resulted in what? A 7 seed and a first-round exit and an injured Micah Parsons. So I think that it's a risk. It's an all-in move, and that's the downside of it, right? Now, if Parsons stays healthy, is Green Bay winning the division? And is this looking completely different for them? We don't know. But that's where the all-in move is dangerous, quite frankly, because not only does the star player that you're banking on, he gets hurt. It's football. Guys get hurt. Now you don't have a first-round pick for 2 years. and that's crippling for teams. It's the Rams are the anomaly where
yeah, I was gonna say you can bring up the Rams though. They have the whole motto "fuck them picks." They won a Super Bowl, and look where they are right now.
But the Rams, yes, definitely the Rams are the anomaly. I think because they've drafted so well in rounds 3 through 6, and I think that is where Holmes. That's where you've seen the biggest variance of Holmes draft picks between rounds 3 and 6. I would say you've had hits like Aleem, Saint, Kirby, who are like all pro level players that you have to pay like all pro level players, and then you have guys like Manu, who hopefully maybe does something, but we're not sure. Broderick Martin, Vaki, Tesla, like you have Hendon Hooker, you have these guys that he's taken that have completely busted. There hasn't been, like, I can't think off the top of my head just a solid 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round pick.
Yeah, there in recent years, absolutely not. That's the problem. And Christian.
And when I say solid, I mean just like a solid starter. Obviously, Saint and Kirby and Aleem are like at the top of their position.
Yeah, you can bring Derek Barnes into that too, and we extended him and gave him the contract. He was a 4th round pick. So the thing that this is where I think Holmes kind of finds himself in a little bit of a pickle. It's kind of contradictory. So he brings up how we don't want to find ourselves into any sort of, cap hell in 3 years down the line. And we're going to make sure that we're being very, I think conservative was a word he had used on this episode. And it's certainly kind of how they employ a strategy during free agency. But the problem is on draft night, he does a completely opposite approach where he gets very loose and willy-nilly. And he just brought up Broderick Martin, Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, Isaac Tesla. I'm going to trade away future assets, future draft capital, go get my handpicked guys that I am clearly infatuated with that I have to go get, despite the draft board telling me a lot of, and you can look at the data, the consensus draft boards mean something that if someone has a 6th or 7th round draft stock, it's more than likely that's where they're going to go. So he goes up, overdrafts these guys, not just overdrafting them, trading away additional picks to do so. And if this is going to be your motto of draft, develop, extend, and I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Reisman, Proud of Detroit. He put up a great article this week. If this is going to be your motto, it's so important and paramount to keep accumulating young talent, and that's through the draft. And you need to accumulate a lot of it because you're not going to go out externally in free agency or trade for a Max Crosby or a Trey Hendrickson. You need to find that in the draft, and you need to have you need to be infusing the roster, the locker room with that talent. So it makes no sense to me that why you would trade draft picks. You need to be accumulating as many draft picks as possible because you need to be constantly recycling the room with cheaper, younger talent because you're not going to go out and get it externally through free agency or trade. That's not their motto. Then they're not going to operate that way for as long as Brad Holmes is the GM of the Detroit Lions. That's just not going to be a method of how we acquire players. They won't target it that way.
And they've been outward about that. And they've been consistent with that approach the last 5 off seasons, and I think the first couple of off seasons, they were a little more, throwing money at some guys and some longer term deals, but we're at the point now where we can expect one.
Mm-hmm. And he brought that up. He said back in 2021, 2022, we were still building. And now they look at themselves as a team that's like, okay, we've kind of reached, and they haven't reached the ultimate goal of the top, but they've kind of topped out, and they view themselves as more as the hunted rather than the hunter. We're on the ascent. Now we've won multiple divisions, gone to playoffs multiple years. So sorry, JD, continue though.
No, you're good. It's good color. And I just think when you're having these discussions on, the extensions, which that was a big takeaway for me, listening to Holmes talk about this situation, that they've created for themselves, whether you agree with it or not. They want to extend Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, and Branch, right? Those are really the 4 guys remaining of significance that are at the top of their position group that they need to extend, that are probably going to be. Gibbs is probably going to be the highest paid running back. Campbell will probably be the highest paid linebacker. Branch and Laporta we'll see coming off injury. Maybe you can get them on a little bit of a discount, but they're still going to cost quite a bit of money, as they should. They're really good players. So the question then becomes, and I don't have, like, this is not a trick question, so please don't think that it is. But Scott, for you, it's like, knowing that you have those 4 guys that you have to pay, are you willing to not pay, a Sam Laporta, let's say, to bring in a Trey Hendrickson? And those contracts wouldn't be apples to apples, but bringing in a guy that's going to cost you $20 million a year at edge to help get after the quarterback at the expense of a Brian Branch or a Sam Laporta, right? Like, that's, I think, it's not A to B, but like, that's the conversation that you have to have. And are there any guys in this free agency class that you would rather pay over one of those 4 guys?
It's opportunity cost, right? You can't have it all. You can't have your cake and eat it too. We can't extend all of these 4 guys who, by all means, are that 2023 draft class was spectacular. The first round picks and then the second round picks. I mean, right now we're looking at Laporta and BB with Branch, and both of them are hurt. We could maybe get them at a discount. It depends how the team may be approaching those and say, let's get a deal done that might be a little under what we were expecting to pay you. I think that and this is JD, we talked about this offline a couple of days ago, is the timing of the extensions. Do you think it makes sense to give Jahmyr Gibbs a huge contract right now when you still have a 5th-year option in play? He's a running back. Do you want to really pay him when he still has another, 500 totes in front of him, 600 totes for 2 more years? Does it make sense? And I think you can bring up the timing of these extensions where you gave Kirby Joseph money a year in advance. You gave Aleem McNeil money a year in advance. You can't predict injuries. So I'm not saying we had a crystal ball and saw we're going to pay Kirby and he's going to get hurt. We're going to pay Aleem and he's going to get hurt. But that's kind of the risk. Every player in this league is an injury risk. So it's like, do you need to do the thing where we pay them a full year in advance just to do right by them, or maybe set the market a year before? Because right now, you did the same thing with Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is now he's beneath the top 10 in terms of receiver money. So it's like, he's going to want more money in a year from now. Next offseason, he's going to look for a rework deal. So the timing of the extensions is where I start to wonder. And you can accumulate more data on a player too, and say, is another injury going to pop up? 2, does their effectiveness of play, is this changing? And you can always look at some of these guys who are coming up on expiring deals as trade assets, trade chips. And even if you let them walk, guess what? You get comp picks. You get a 3rd or a 4th round comp pick for letting a guy walk. Look at the Eagles. They get those every year because they're letting 2 or 3 really good players, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, go. And then they accumulate a 3rd or a 4th round comp pick that can then maybe become another good player or used as trade leverage to move up or trade to go with Jalen Phillips. There's all sorts of, it's just another asset. So
I will say, now that free agency has really kind of settled down, I don't think, at least for the Lions, I don't think there's going to be any more moves of like significance in terms of like the name. I do really like what they did with their draft picks, their free agent signings. Center, we talked about being maybe the most important position that they needed to address. They did that with probably the 2nd best guy on the market. They needed some depth at O-line as well. They did that, which I want to talk about Larry Borum in a second. You bring in a guy like Dortch, who's a nice, fun piece for the offensive play callers. Pacheco on less than $2 million. Cool. That's great. I'd still probably love for them to pick up another running back in the draft somewhere. And then defensively, you get those young corners that you were talking about, Izzy and McCreary, like both of them. You get a really good athletic linebacker, or I shouldn't say good. You get a very athletic linebacker in Damone Clark. Wanham at edge is a nice, run defender. You can trust him on early downs. You know what you're going to get. So like, I do like how they filled the roster with guys leaving, the Anzalonis, the Amiques of the world. I like how they filled it. Like, I really do. I like pretty much everything that has happened this offseason in terms of player acquisition. But the glaring issue is still that edge room.
The pass rush. Yeah. And I think and Dortch is a great, I think, younger Khalif. It's a Khalif replacement. I don't know if he has the same burning speed that Khalif has, but he's a return. He's good in the return game. He can be used on offense. We just got younger. It was a youth move in offseason, which in a vacuum is a good thing. We want that. I think where, again, I find a lot of issues with Brad, with Holmes, and sometimes we call him Melvin when I get really upset, but I'll reserve that for maybe later in this episode.
You got to show some respect.
It's his name. It's his birth name. But so Holmes, he continues to almost double down on his process, and that's a sign of a stubborn person, someone who thinks that they have the right answers, and they're going to just keep kind of doing it their way, right? So the Lions have been very persistent in terms of how they put together. And I want to talk more on the defensive side of the ball. And this has been one of my biggest issues. I brought it up on episode 1, episode 2, the way that our pass rush and these metrics in terms of time to the quarterback time to throw, all these things that were ranked literally 32nd dead last in. This data has been there, and it's since 2021, since this regime comes in, the Lions are bottom 5 in the league in all these advanced pass rush metrics. Why are we continuing to just pour resources at corner when, whether it's Cam Sutton, it could be Amik Robertson, it could be DJ Reed, it could be Carlton Davis via trade. Here we go. First round draft pick Terrion Arnold, second round draft pick Ennis Rakestraw, Roger McCreary, Christian Isian.
Rock.
It's almost like Rock Yasin. We keep building the defense.
I know producer Tim is a big Rock Yasin guy.
We love Rock.
You gotta love him.
You gotta love Rock. You're building the defense like inverse, like inside out. A good defense starts from the pass rush, and it makes corners and safeties' lives easier if you're getting home to the quarterback. It doesn't work the other way around, and that's the problem that I continue to have, where you keep like pouring resources into the wrong position. And the funny part, this is something that just popped into my head the other day. Do you remember at the post end of season presser when Holmes came up there, someone asked about the edge room and said, "Hey, what's the plan for the pass rush?" The team was, again, lowly in terms of getting to the quarterback. And he goes, "Well, I don't know how many other teams have a guy with 14 sacks and 11 sacks. Why does this dawned on me. He brought up the guy with 11 sacks. He didn't even try to re-sign him. And so if you're so adamant about having this guy, Al-Quddin Muhammad, that had 11 sacks, you didn't even try to re-sign him. Man, I've just had it because he just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. Peyton Turner, free agent signing from New Orleans, former first-round pick, often injured. It's the same fucking story as Marcus Davenport. He's just this big dude, all traits. He's never on the field, but he had high draft pedigree. And you go sign him to a 1-year deal. The dude won't be healthy by the end of training camp. Let's be real. And it's the same thing.
No offense, Peyton Turner. We love you. One pride.
No, hey, man, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Peyton Turner's out balling out for us this year. But it's like, you just did this 2 off seasons ago with Marcus Davenport. Did you see how that worked out? Why are you doing this again? Do something different. That's the problem, that intelligent people learn from their mistakes and then change and adapt. I'm not seeing that with Holmes. I think he views himself like, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and it'll work. Guess what? It hasn't. You haven't even been to a Super Bowl, man. So,
well, the whole, and then we can move on. The whole leaning into the draft, it makes sense for 2 reasons. One, he's a scout. That's his background, right? He has a scouting background, and he's good. He is a good drafter. He's drafted well for this team, and that's my second reason is when you've had the success with guys, I think we listed them all off last episode, you know, the 9 or 10 guys that are Pro Bowl / all pro level players
He's
that
gotten
are
all pros all across the field, different position groups,
for
all
sure.
over.
So it's like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Scott, in terms of like adapting and adjusting, and that's something that I'm also a little frustrated with. But when you do have success at something, you're gonna want to try to replicate it, right? But then it goes back to what you said earlier: is okay, if you like the draft, why not give yourself as many options with draft picks versus trading up for guys who are risky picks that you think are good players? So
Yeah.
what I would love, and then let's move on to the Decker Ragnar stuff. I would love if we just traded back in the first round. I would love accumulate 1 or 2 more picks, trade down to like 20, trade with the Browns down to like 24. I think they have that pick. Let the Browns
Yeah.
trade up and draft someone that they shouldn't draft and get another pick. Start to build that back up. Like we have a lot of picks this year. I think we have 9, but a lot of them are kind of that back half. Like the value of those picks aren't super high. Those are true lottery ticket.
7 out of the 9 picks are 4th round or later. Yeah, it's just first and second. We have those,
Yeah, so like let's Brad, I know you're listening. Just trade down. Just trade down, please. Trade
he'll
down.
listen to you if you call him If you call him Melvin, he'll listen. He's more likely to listen to you.
You can still get a good player in the first round at a position of need, which they will not draft position of need. They will draft best player available. So
JD, if recent history tells us anything, Jay, 7 trade ups in the last 2 drafts, 0 trade downs. So if recent history tells us anything, he's trading up, not down, man. So better start looking at those higher up, higher draft picks. And but I'm with you. I'm fully with you though. Trading down and accumulating more draft picks. And I want to rebut on one take. You said Holmes is a good drafter. I want to clarify that there are like university-led studies. Drafting, there isn't a skill to drafting. Drafting is extremely, extremely hard. And over the long run, it's like a total crapshoot. And these guys who run the teams overestimate their ability to delineate the right to choose and to choose between the busts and the hits. And I want to make that clear. And I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword where Holmes drafting so well in 2021, 22, and 23, which he was given extra draft capital. Let's he kind of inherited a pretty good situation. That I think that overestimated his self-confidence to be like, I am such a good drafter here. I'm just going to keep trading up for my hand-picked guys. It's such a flaw in his process. It's costing us wins. Like it's costing us a 4th round finish in a division because the team was weak. The 2024 draft class didn't contribute last year and the year before.
I guess I don't fully agree with you on that, Scott, because like the team is where they're at because of the guys that he's drafted.
Yeah.
He had multiple 1st round draft picks. That's just,
so
in
many guys
can take a job.
2023 and 2024, Brad Holmes was the executive of the year. So we're looking at 2 years. I think this podcast should reassess Holmes because we're grading him off this offseason, right? But there are a lot of uncertainties.
We've just had 2 extremely disappointing finishes. 24 and 25 were not good seasons. So I view, and a lot of that goes to the most recent draft classes. So
right.
But then okay, you're relying that heavily on a rookie class last year. Like that is also not realistic in the NFL. Yeah. Like how many rookies truly contribute to their team? Like 2 at the most. So I think last year's fumble of the season was more. We had a not a good offensive coordinator for half the season. We had a very difficult first place schedule, and let's be honest, we had so many breaks go our way in 2024 that led to 15 wins, albeit with all those injuries. Where like I think injuries were a big part of the 2024 collapse, which whatever. But I think we had a lot of things go our way in 2024 that just did not go our way in 2025. And we had a worse O-line. Like our all-pro, Hall of Fame, awesome center retired. Our left tackle was banged up, which, hey, that's a good segue into topic number 3, which is what the heck is going on with, one, this Taylor Decker stuff, and 2, the Ragnow situation that just dropped within the last 24 to 48 hours. I want to get your thoughts on that, Scott, because it's just the Ragnow thing. There's no other way to spin it. It is just such a bad look.
Yeah, it's a bad look. It's extremely petty, and you start to question, like, is it really worth? So what? It's a $3 million prorated signing bonus that the team wants back. So let's begin. And it's funny. So Rod Wood comes out and he's 1 foot out the door. He's announced his retirement. I don't know why he keeps yapping and running his mouth, but so you've got Rod Wood coming out and essentially defending the team's policy, whatever they word. And he brings up, this was a longstanding policy that dates back to Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. Why are
that
you
no one agreed with? That no one thought was a good idea.
Reminding people of your embarrassments. Like, this is like a stain on your organization. And this is why the Lions are made fun of for decades, right?
Yeah.
This was not how you do your franchise icons, Hall of Fame, but one of the best players that have ever played this sport. Frank Ragnow is not necessarily Barry Sanders or Calvin Johnson, but he's just like, he's borderline Hall of Famer. If he would have played a few more years, he's probably getting a gold jacket. Let's be real. So Ragnow is just, in that tier below.
Not only his play, but what he just played through. Fractured throat. He played on a torn meniscus like the week after surgery.
An inoperable toe.
Like,
he had back issues. He had back issues.
You said it. You just don't do that kind of stuff to your legends. And Ragnow is a legend, and it's for less than 1% of the salary cap that you're getting back. So like, you're getting another Isaiah Pacheco, like, not worth what the optics are. And technically the Lions have every right to do it. Technically, contractually, legally, they can do it, but it's so bad.
It's extremely petty. It's a terrible look. I want to bring up too. So Frank Ragnow retires, right? So then you get a lot of that money back that would be going, like, his salary against the cap. Would you rather have Frank Ragnow try to gut through it than he goes through training camp and says, guys, I can't do this. Just put me on IR. And then at that point, you're paying him the full salary. So then if he plays or tries to play through and then can't and goes on IR, rather than just saying, like, hey guys, I'm going to retire. Like, and he's not retiring because he doesn't love football or he's not into the game anymore. He's retiring because he physically can't play anymore. And I don't know, Tim, if you have the link for the Jason Kelce tweet. Jason Kelce had a really, really strong tweet that basically went into that exact situation. I don't know if you want to pull it up or can you maybe read it? That just it essentially explains kind of what I'm bringing up of. Yeah, there we go.
This is interesting, Jason says. Feels like it's obvious that Frank retired because he was physically fighting through injuries and pain. And it got to a point that he no longer could play the game in an enjoyable, effective, or healthy way. Okay.
This is a long tweet. I think if people want to read it, they should go read it. But Jason Kelce, I think he summarized it very eloquently. And at the end, he says it's bullshit, and it is bullshit. And you can't really defend it as a Lions fan. And if you are defending it, it's blind. You have your blinders on, and it's you got to take them off.
Sorry, Jason. Not everybody can retire and become a media darling and just have a sick career as like a podcaster.
Frank just wants to go. Frank just wants to go fishing and enjoy the outdoors, and that's different. But I think it's a terrible look. It's someone who, again, he didn't retire because he didn't feel like playing football anymore. He lost his heart his love for the game. The guy, he tried to come back. He tried to return.
I know.
Well, honestly, it's a kind of toxic mindset to expect more than 10 years from these guys who, and
especially O-line. O-line is such it's such a brutal position.
It's not like NFL's the start of their career either. Most
Right.
of these guys have been playing football for 20 years, fighting through. I mean, I'm just like, does Sheila Hamp Ford sign off on this practice? I really, if it's a business, dude, you give the people that contributed to your business their flowers, and I don't get it.
You do right by them, and it's really disappointing, and I think it just shows that they haven't learned from how they've done this with past legends. And you thought that they would have with this new regime and the new vibe and the culture and everything. And I don't know like how much something like this like affects a locker room, or like is that gonna be the difference between someone signing here or not? I don't know, but it's not. In my opinion, it's not the right way to go about it.
This is I'm just seeing Rod's quote in the Jeremy Reisman article here. I could pull that up if you want.
Yeah,
Rod has been talking out of his ass the last few days. I don't know what the hell he's thinking.
I gotta sit him down at the London Chop House and set him straight.
Yeah,
but he's on the way out. I think the Lions just need to hire Disner be the president.
Rod's not a football guy. That's the thing that annoys me too. You're not a football guy, dude. You work on like the back end financial stuff. Like, stop talking about players. Like, shut up. Like, it's ridiculous. Our precedent goes all the way back to Barry Sanders. It's like, yeah,
they were paid in advance for services they had not completed. Yeah,
it's yeah. The precedent goes back to Barry Sanders, and for years, decades, the organization was like mocked for the way that they handled that, and then they did it again with Calvin, and now it's like happening again, and it's like, guys, what are we doing?
Right.
So on a similar but different note, some more stuff came out about this whole Taylor Decker situation that is just bizarre. It's a bizarre situation. Holmes talked about it kind of vaguely on the Lions Collective interview, but Scott, what's your take on this whole Taylor Decker thing?
So the Decker situation, there clearly was some sort of miscommunication in terms of him announcing his retirement, or his not retiring, his coming back for his year, I think 11. Yeah, his 11th season in the league. Him and making that announcement, and then I think that threw the team off. I think they were expecting him to retire, and from what I read, it was a 24-hour window where I think this was during the NFL Combine, late February, about a little over a month ago, where essentially the team told Taylor, "Hey, we're still figuring some things out. Like, let's talk, or let's table this for a bit, and we're going to figure out whether we bring you back on a." And I think at that point, Taylor's kind of was like, "I'm not coming back if I'm not making the money, the contract that I agreed to." And the team clearly wasn't planning on bringing him back at that same $20 million, per year hit. So they wanted him to take a pay cut. But I think the issue, and I think there's blame on both sides, where the team didn't come out and say, "Hey, let's sit down, Taylor. This is our plan for you if you are to return." They probably should have done that in January and said, "If you return, the plan for on our end is that you're going to play for $12 million rather than 20. And if you don't want to do that, that's good." But the problem was the optics of him making this Instagram announcement, where then the team, it puts the team in a weird place where Taylor's like, year 11, let's ride, let's do this thing. And then a week later, they're announcing his release. So
yeah,
it's bizarre. I don't necessarily view it as bad. I think it's actually good business by the Lions in terms of, I don't want to pay Taylor Decker $20 million a year at this stage of his career and how often he's hurt, and I think it's probably the right move to move on, or at least try to get him to play for less money. And if he wasn't willing to accept that, then yeah, you got to go. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
it's weird. It's just weird the vibe is a little weird and not all flowers and roses and dandelions like it was maybe 2 years ago when we were on this ascent, where you've got this Ragnar thing, you've got Decker, saying that he didn't even get a thank you from the coaches in the front office. You got Anzalone doing his thing on Twitter like he does, backing his teammates, which I respect. But you just have these guys who are kind of like the face of the team for a little bit there who are not anymore, and it's weird because the ending of those of their chapters as Lions was not super graceful. Like even the Ragnow retirement was out of nowhere, really. Like I think people speculated that it might happen, but then it was like June 1st, I think, is when he officially retired, and it was like whoa, and that's what sent I think last year into a tailspin. So and then I even think back to John Morton, like kind of throwing the O-line under the bus a couple weeks into the season, and Glasgow like kind of fired back at him. So just some weirdness that we haven't had, really in the Campbell era, because everything has been we were the plucky underdog, the Hard Knocks darlings, beat the Packers at Lambeau to knock them out of the playoffs, win the division, doorstep of the Super Bowl, 15-win season, 1 seed, like all that.
I think, JD, you brought up a good point too. The team, and during that ascent, a couple of years ago, a big thing they prided themselves on was like how we treat our players. And this isn't how the same old Lions of what we used, especially during those Patricia years. But we've really turned a corner in terms of how we want to be an attractive place for players to come and play and sign.
Patricia, shout out Patricia.
Nice pencil, man.
Nice pencil. But and this
Pencil boy.
this offseason has been a total 180 degree in terms of just the vibes. The vibes are off.
Even like the Montgomery trade was like, he had some stuff on social media that people were reading into, like, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't getting the ball as much as he wanted to, and it's hard to knock at the ball.
Not the first time a player is aggrieved, and I'm just reading some Pride of Detroit kind of chatter in the comments, and it's something maybe we got to harp on. Motor City Ball Knowers, we're fans. We love the players. It's a business, though.
It's a business.
I'm sorry,
for sure.
Your services are up. And
that's where I don't necessarily defend. Like I'll defend Ragnow much quicker and more adamantly than I will Decker in this case. I think Decker has a little bit of sour grapes right now. Felt like he was kind of wronged, and but also I think the team could have probably communicated a little bit more forthcoming based on, he had the one-on-one sit-down interview with Justin Rogers, and he kind of claimed that the Lions basically ghosted me, which that's bad form by the Lions too. I gotta hold them accountable as well. But I also think Taylor is upset, and I think his ego is bruised by all of this happening.
Well, let's talk about something that's more fun and exciting to kind of wrap us up here. We have the draft in about 3 weeks, and as of right now, the Lions are picking at 17. There are, if they stay at 17, I think we both agree that there are some dudes that could help this team. And let's be clear too, the Lions will draft the best available player on their board. They're not going to draft for need. So if a tackle is there and they don't like him, they're not going to take him. But let's talk just briefly, because I think our next episode will be more kind of in-depth, like draft analysis and teaser. We're going to try to rip a live mock draft, which will be really fun. But give me a couple names, Scott, of guys who realistically could be there at 17 that you also think the Lions, based on what we know and what they're looking for, would realistically, want to take at 17.
The first name I have is the problem is it's like not necessarily realistic, because the Lions don't target these pass rushing edges. They target these like run stopping, like set the edge type of edges. But like, no. I do. I get the prompt of the question, Jay, but I am going to say I'm going to try to be optimistic that the team does realize, okay, we haven't targeted this guy in free agency. We haven't gone after. I want Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. He gets after the quarterback. I like his. I know this is why his draft stock is probably going to fall a little bit. He's old. I think he's 24, if not turning 25 this year. That means he's ready to come in day one. I'm kind of sick of. We're on off of the heels of a NFC Championship game appearance, and you go and trade up for a Canadian. He played college football in Canada, developmental tackle, and Giovanni Manu. You probably should have drafted someone there that was ready to come in day one and help this team get over the hump off of the San Francisco game. So I want someone who's ready to come in, contribute right away. And I think Akeem Mesidor is that guy. So he's the edge on Miami. Ruben Bain might be the bigger name from the college football playoff run, but Akeem Mesidor, he was making a name for himself as well, getting after the quarterback, wreaking havoc in the backfield. And I think the age is actually a plus in this case, because that means he's ready week 1, September. He's a guy that can come in and play 30 snaps, 35 snaps, and most importantly on third down when we need to get off the field and get after the quarterback. So that's the name that I'll bring in. Jay, what do you got?
I love it. And I'd be super stoked with him too. Shout out cousin Mike and fam coming on. So this is a dude. It's definitely you could argue maybe it is a position of need based on some injuries, but I love this guy, Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. He is a safety. I think he ran a 4.3 40. And I look at that Seattle Seahawks defense that just won the Super Bowl. And I'm going to butcher his name. Nick Imamori was their chess piece. 6'4", 225, could set the edge, could cover guys in the slot, could cover guys on the outside if you needed to, cover tight ends, blitz, could do it all. I think the Lions do not have a guy like that. Like, they have Branch, who is a Swiss Army knife, but he's undersized and he's got more football instinct.
He has a torn Achilles.
Thieneman, I just think, is a complete stud, and I think with the way that the NFL defenses are, they're kind of shifting towards this like nickel heavy, like you need a guy like that, and it is more of a premium pick, and edge is more of a position of need for sure, but I could totally see the Lions falling in love with this guy. And I think he could step in day one and really help. And if Kirby, let's say, can't play at the level that he was able to play at ever again, that could be your Kirby replacement. So
yeah,
that's a little exotic.
Safety's a short-term and a long-term need right now. We don't know the future of Kirby Joseph and Branch. Coming off an Achilles, we have no idea what that's going to look like.
So we both said defenders. I do think I would love, at 17, I do think you definitely can find a tackle that and we didn't really even talk about Larry Borum, who Holmes seems to be pretty high on. I think you and I are both higher on him than originally after the free agent signing. But tackle is definitely a spot that you could take. You could find a couple tackles at 17. After that, I would be completely fine if they went defense for the next 5 or 6 picks, and then get a running back late, get a tight end late, and maybe get a developmental quarterback late. Yeah. But I would be completely fine after 17 if they go tackle. Just take defense.
We totally missed Borum earlier, and I do want to circle back to the agenda item number 2, talking about the Holmes interview. Yes, we should have brought that up during that segment. He brought up Larry Borum he was extremely adamant and clear about him being a right tackle. We view him as a right tackle. That's where he shined in Miami. And looking at him coming out of the pre-draft process, that is something to also bring up, is that looks like Panay, and I think Campbell brought this up a few days ago at the NFL coaches meetings. It looks like Panay might be going over to left. That looks pretty likely. So in terms of right tackle, I think Larry Borum is the leader in the clubhouse for that position. We'll see if they add in the draft. I do not want that at 17 at this stage. Obviously, it's great to keep the O-line strong and continue to invest resources there. We need an edge. I'm just going to keep saying that every episode until it ends. We need to invest talent at edge. And I'm at this point, with the way the room looks, I'm like 17 and 50s. First and second round picks should be edges and just keep getting depth there, because these good teams, Seahawks, Eagles, they rotate guys. They have like 6 dudes that are all like legit, and they have fresh legs. It's like we need more. We need talent.
Well, I do also think that regardless of what happens at 17, whether it's tackle or not, I think the O-line room is significantly better than what it was last year with the additions of Mays. Ben Barch is a sneaky, like, really nice pickup. I would not be shocked if he started, to be honest with you, at left guard. Scruggs was just a savvy little addition to that Montgomery trade. That's your backup center right there. And then Borum is he can start at right tackle. And if you're gonna, like, you can make do with a right tackle. If you have a right-handed quarterback, you can make do with a right tackle that is not elite. And Goff struggles with pressure right up the gut. We know that, it's well documented. When it's off the edge, he can, and he can see it. He can dance a little bit. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson, but like, he can step up in the pocket. He can buy a little extra time to at least not get sacked. And I think,
it's like Tom Brady, like, archetype of like, I'm not going to run or like get out of the pocket, but I'm going to just like slightly just move up. Yeah, I see
avoid the sack, throw it into the dirt, like live to see another day. So the last thing about the O-line that I love that I think is going to happen is that left guard spot that Mahogany kind of inherited, just because you know how you have him, you have Miles Frazier, hopefully for a full healthy offseason, and then and Bart, I might be butchering that, but you have 3 guys competing for that left guard spot. So may the best man win. And I think that if it is Mahogany, great. That means he won a position battle.
And this was noted in the Holmes interview as well, was Cade Mays. The reason they targeted him was the size. He's like huge. He's like 6'6". And as center, that's like it's pretty outlandishly tall for a center. A lot of the centers are usually 6'2", 6'3", maybe 6'4". And that's what Ragnow was. Ragnow was huge. I don't want to compare Cade Mays to Ragnow. I think Ragnow is obviously a Hall of Fame caliber level player, but at the same time, it's kind of the same. And then Cade Mays specializes in pass pro, so a big anchor. And that was something Holmes brought up, because we need an anchor in the middle.
I'm gonna tag Cousin Mike in real quick.
Tap in Cousin Mike.
3 prospects for you that I've been reading that we're interested in. Proctor from Alabama. He's a little bit slow with some of those stats. He is big. He's got the measurables, but I don't know if he's able to like hold the end as well as.
By the way, if you're listening on Spotify and you don't recognize his voice, this is Cousin Mike, who is actually our first ever live surprise guest. And we're 53 minutes in, and this is usually where the podcast starts to get a little wonky. So
we're bringing the juice, baby.
Cousin Mike is live.
Juice. So we got
Cousin
Proctor.
Mike is here.
The DN that I hear we like is Falk. He's more of a pass rusher, and he can set the end. So
out of Auburn.
Yep. And then also the third guy, who I don't think he's going to be there anymore. They could go for Fano. And then I think an interesting prospect is the guard from Penn State.
Vega Ione.
Yeah, he's rock solid. And if you have to go with Larry Borum, like, I've been reading his PFF grades, he'll play well for like 25 snaps and then be atrocious for 5. So maybe we can be like, we're okay with him having 5 bad snaps if we have 4 out of the 5, linemen locked down. And then there's also the if they don't get a lineman, there are people like Kevin Zeitler still out there in free agency. And even though you don't want to kick the can too far down the road, you could restructure Panay, who you're never going to want to leave the team, for like $5 to $7 million to open that up to get a guy like Kevin Zeitler to come in and fill the guard if they need something like that. And then to what I can't remember who said, we definitely could draft a safety. I have no idea if Kirby Joseph's ever going to play football again. Brian Branch, at best, will be available during Halloween.
Second half of the season, yeah.
Achilles are
safety is also a position that you could get at 118 or 128 and have that,
that was Kirby. Kirby was what,
right.
5?
Right. And I think
you can patch it up with, they just signed Chuck Clark yesterday.
Chuck Clark, Thomas Harper.
The safeties are probably the easiest guys to sign in free agency because they're never expensive.
Right.
Either.
Right.
You could and then as you said, Thomas Harper, we didn't really skip a beat with our safeties. We skipped a beat with not having any run defense. And then
I think Branch, I think the run defense went to crap because Branch was out partially. Right. I think that was a bit
linebacker, like a weak side linebacker at that point, because Barnes wasn't really doing very well.
Yeah, he's so good at blowing plays up and identifying, runs and things like that. But all good guy. I think the point is at 17, there's gonna be options, there's gonna be guys.
There's a starter that's gonna be there.
I thought we were gonna trade down.
They could trade down, but this draft class only has 8 to 10 first round. It's weak. The COVID years end after this year, so 27 draft is supposed to be stacked. So there's not too many.
These COVID kids suck.
Honestly, yeah.
No,
it's just there's not going to be any more 8 25-year-old guys coming into the league and all that garbage.
Oh, I get it.
You're gonna have a normal slate of players. It's supposed to be a loaded draft. But I think we have to get 2 starters because we have no DE2. We have we're missing a guard. We don't have a starting right tackle. We don't
shallow and defensive tackle too.
Yeah, nice fart, Tim. We don't have a starting safety because one of them is going to be out, if not 2. The Terrion Arnold situation, I don't think he's going to be indicted at this point unless some brand new evidence comes out.
We have so many corners. That's
And Mike is a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that was illegal.
So is Timmy.
I'm not.
Basically, that smells horrible, Tim. something died inside of this guy and it's just released.
Dude, we're pretty shallow at D tackle right now too. After letting Lopez,
we only got 2 guys. We only have 2.
Yeah,
Who signed on
Levi.
Oh, Levi.
Yeah, he can rely. We can rely on him to play.
I mean, when he plays, he's actually pretty good. He's worth $5 million. I'm glad we got rid of Pascal. He could never stay on the field. Rakestraw is a huge question mark. I don't know what he can do. I mean, he has good tape from Missouri, but he hasn't played in 2 years.
I think he's going to be a stud.
Yeah. From all accounts, he was just lighting it up in practice, and he's been very good, and the team is very high on him. And then obviously he just gets hurt. Right. But
he's playing better than Branch supposedly that first training camp, and then he went down.
I think Rakestraw, as long as he comes back, I think what was it? It was a shoulder injury, so hopefully
shoulder. Yeah, he said he's fully healthy.
And
then
Tim, let's do one mailbag.
I'm gonna get Denny Dennison.
Shout out Denny.
Big D.
The Big D.
The Grand Slam.
He's the Grand Slam Denny.
Yeah.
Shout out Denny.
And we've talked about our personnel. We've talked about the Lions culture, and he has an interesting question.
Let's hear it.
He says, do we think that Coach Dan lightens up on the training camp intensity in light of consistent injury issues down the stretch? Or do you believe this is just noise and coincidence?
So I think Campbell is smart, and I think he's very in tune with what needs to happen. And I think he's also very open to change and doing things differently. And I do think there's a lot of smoke around that topic of intense training camps, and maybe we need to ramp it down a little bit. So I do know that, I don't know. I do think that we still are going to have one of the more physical training camps in the league, but I would expect maybe that to be ramped down. If it was at a 10, I'd say I think Dan ramps it down to a 8.
Yeah, Jay, am in lockstep with you. You kind of took the words out of my mouth when I was going to say, in terms of, I call Holmes very stubborn and unwilling to change. I think Dan is actually kind of the opposite. When he sees something going wrong, whether it was Anthony Lynn in year one or Johnny Morton, my boy, this past year, he was quick to make a change, right? So I think Campbell will dial it back. I know they just announced earlier this week that they're done with the joint practices, and they called them, and Campbell actually said this verbatim, he called them counterproductive. So I know last year we did that with Miami, the year before, I believe, with the Giants. And so no more joint practices coming up this year. I don't know how, they view that. Could be where guys, kind of ratchet up the intensity, and they're way more physical there in those joint practices. However, it's a good question. It's philosophical. Do you get the wear and tear from the early season in August that ends up biting you down 3 months later when you're down the stretch in November, December? You could make that argument. I still think there's something going on in the water with the medical staff and the doctors and the training staff. But I do think that Dan's definitely looking at it. I mean, the fact that they've already made a change in terms of the joint practices means that that's something that they're at least analyzing and have under a microscope. So it's a great question. I think
I'm with you. I'm so happy the joint practices are over. I feel like they heighten the possibility of injury so much. People go in with their shoulders, break a collarbone, who knows? So he's definitely dialing it back from that perspective. And I also think, just after looking at the past 2 years where your whole defense died, you got to do something, because it doesn't matter what team you are. If you lose your front seven one year, like we did in 24, you're not winning the Super Bowl. If you lose your back four, you're not winning the Super Bowl. Like, no one can overcome that at all. And then to go back a little bit on something Scott said earlier with Dan talking about defensive flexibility. We ran the most base defense in the NFL by 20% over the second rated team in 4-3. So I think you're going to know a lot about how they draft here on what they're going to come out with. If they're going to come out with a 5-2 or a 3-2-5 like the Seattle Seahawks do. I think it's going to be totally different. A lot more zone this year. I think they're going to try to contain the run and contain time of possession and be like, all right, you want to score like 21, 24 points, whatever, but we can get to 28. So they're going to try to keep people in front of them more this time, and maybe create pressure by blitzing from the secondary more so, because clearly the guys on the line can't get through.
Yeah. I think I know they view Kelvin Shepherd as like a rising star in this league, and they really trust him to continue to kind of elevate the defense and get the most out of the defense. Whether I agree with that, jury's still out. I think we'll see what Shepherd is able to bring. At the same time, they definitely do want, and every signing we've had this year, Wanham, McCreary, Izzy, and they're all like predominantly run stopping, like run first players. And that's the way that they want to kind of have this thing where they try to make an offense become kind of like one arm behind your back, make you one-dimensional. You're not going to be able to run on us. So at least it makes them predictable, and that can help maybe overcome the lack of talent in terms of the edge room and rushing after the quarterback. Yeah. So at least you can kind of figure out what the offense is going to do, because they're not going to be able to get it done on the ground. So it's definitely an emphasis of stopping the run, and that's what made them really good 2 years ago. And the first half of last year, the run game, opposing run games couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
that's, and as we kind of, I want to remind people, and this is a shout out to Colton Pouncey, because he mentioned this today, and I had already forgotten about it. But as we kind of move into this next phase of the offseason, where like free agency is slowing down, we're about to ramp up draft. Let's not forget maybe the biggest pickup of the entire offseason was Drew Petzing early in the offseason. I think he's going to be very good for this team, and I think he is going to make a big difference. And it's been well documented on this show and many others that the John Morton experience was an epic failure, and we couldn't really recover. And Scott, you said it earlier on this show, I think once Campbell started calling plays, some of the other things that he typically is pretty good at fell through the cracks and, led to some of the results that were last season. So I just, the player personnel stuff is fun, and it's exciting to get new pieces, but Petzing very well could be the most important pickup of this offseason.
No doubt. And that's another sign of Campbell, the process that they went through last offseason, not even just interviewing anyone outside of the building and just, hey, we're going to give this job to John Morton because we're familiar. And then that shows, again, it's just demonstrating that, hey, I made a mistake. I'm willing to change. And that's why, to go back to John's question, our boy Denny's question, I think Campbell is definitely someone who is willing to adjust and change and, learn from his mistakes and go on the fly. So that's another example of that there with how they approached. And yes, I'm optimistic on Petzing. I think that's the most impactful coaching in the sport of football. Coaching matters more than anything, like way more than baseball, way more than basketball. Coaching is so important, how you draw up and put things together and game plan.
Lacrosse is a close second where coaching
matters. We got two current and former high school coaches on this podcast, so they know ball, ladies and gentlemen.
Tim, what you got anything else for us?
No, I think we just want to thank Dennison for his question, and a special thanks to our first guest, Cousin Mike. I'm back. So
all right, boys, we gotta do one thing though before we go.
No boy.
One of my favorite things to do on the planet. I start doing it in like February 1st. We're going through the schedule really quick. Let's see where you guys end up.
We might have to have you back. You want that? We'll have you back for a season.
Let me get.
Let's wait until we have the actual week 1, week 2, because that comes out next month in May. We don't have
do a final word, man.
All right, fine. I think if we can contain the run, let Jared not get destroyed up the middle, they can come back, make the playoffs, and then who knows? Because the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots that was the worst talented Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life. So you can't tell me that we can't turn it around and get all the way back. Now, could we end up going 6-11 and everything falling apart? Sure. But,
oh God, with this schedule, that would be
although the schedule's not as easy as I think everybody thinks it is. The Saints are going to be a lot better. The Giants are going to be a lot better.
The Giants almost beat us this past. They almost beat us.
I feel like there was like a magnet in the ball. That Jake Bates field goal was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But I do think, the Bears should regress. You're not going to get 35 plus turnovers. The Packers lost a ton of players, so they're not better. And then the Vikings are like cap constrained. And if JJ stinks, I guess they have Kyler Murray, but I mean, that doesn't really concern me that much. Brian Flores is really good, but there's no doubt.
We beat him before.
I know people are down on us right now and they care about the culture and all that crap, but we needed to shake it up because what we had wasn't going to win the Super Bowl. So
yeah,
if we can draft right, if Brad can do what he's supposed to be able to do really well, we can win the Super Bowl again. Just got to stay healthy.
Check out this inception. I got my Bad Boys sweatshirt and my Bad Boys coaster.
Wow. I love it. It's bad. It's good.
I'm a bad boy.
You're a bad. You are a bad boy.
Well, thanks.
Can you clip that one, Tim, for a short?
That's a good. Yeah, that's a short.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Sorry about my
cousin Mike. Great job,
cousin Mike. It was an honor. We were happy to have you.
Ben, what? Say something.
Hey.
Say Motor City Ball.
I love Uncle Garrett. All right.
Go to sleep.
Nah, dude.
Yeah,
it's parties, dude. There's no. It's break. It's break.
Spring break.
It's spring break. You guys remember everything. Yeah, he's been rocking Mario for a while. So
sick.
There we go.
We're gonna put him to bed. But thanks for letting me on, guys.
Of course.
Good stuff, Mike.
It's an honor. All right, guys. Enjoy the April and the D. We got hopefully some playoff games for both the Red Wings and Pistons, although I'm not sure about the Wings. But Tigers opening day this weekend. Michigan basketball in the Final Four for you Wolverines out there. You guys look like the front runners to take down these Nets. So as Spartans here, we hope that doesn't happen. But hey, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in these next few days. So all of our fans, friends, viewers, family, colleagues, thanks for listening. And producer Tim, you got any final sign off for us?
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Yeah. All right. This has been Motor City Ball Knowers episode 3. See you next time. Yep. Hold on. How do you got to stop the recording?